Hello, good evening. We're here today, Wednesday, September 14th, for the 4 o'clock, which is 4:15, Beaumont Economic Development Committee. Meeting called to order. It is 4:15. 4:15. Can we go ahead and take roll call? I'll take roll call. Secretary not here at the moment. I will go ahead and call the committee members. Bernie Ballard, he is excused. I think do we have to take a vote of excuse because, or can we just accept his excuse?
The way the committee was formally set up, there is really no recourse for multiple absences, so there's not like a necessary excused absence. I think that he did notify the chairman of the absence, so that calls for an excuse versus just an absence. But if we get to the point where we need to create rules or regulations for bylaws related to the committee, I think we can do that at a future date. So I don't think we need to take a vote to excuse the absence.
Bertha Barraza?
Here.
Beaumont Chamber?
Here.
Can you, for the record, state your name, please?
Randy Harris.
Randy Harris. R-A-N-D-Y?
Yes.
Harris. Harris.
Correct.
Okay. Nancy Carroll.
Here.
Jeff Chambers.
Here.
Dr. Della Condon.
Here.
For staff.
Kyle Warsinski on behalf of Richard Warren, the city manager.
Jennifer Higgins. Not present at the moment. Terrence Davis. Not present at the moment. Mike McGraw.
Here.
I'm here. Mark Orozco. Mark Turner. Okay, not present at the moment. We do have a quorum, 8 members present, 4 absent. Okay. So actions of the request for, well, we did that already. Pledge of allegiance, please. Okay, ready, begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Are there any adjustments to the agenda?
No.
Okay. Conflict interest disclosures? Kyle, I just wanted to check. I know we were required to, members of this committee are required to go through the online certification or go through a course of the code, right, ethical code.
Correct.
Do we have any certification or any checkoff list to see if we have any members needing to do that?
I've received a couple. I can't remember off the top of my head because it was in close succession to when the agenda item took place a couple months ago. A couple members did fulfill that obligation and sent in their certificate, which I then forwarded to the deputy city clerk.
Okay.
So she'll, that office will be the clearinghouse and the storage location for the ethics training certificates. So if you haven't done it, please go ahead and do it and then forward it to either myself or Nicole, the deputy city clerk, and her contact information is available on the city website.
Okay.
So I could ask her to provide an update for our next meeting on what members that may have not already done it, like the 2 council members, and I believe the city treasurer and myself have had it in place, but some of the new members may have not. But I do know that a couple committee members have done that and submitted.
Okay. You can check with Nicole and maybe send those members a notice. You don't have to, I think, let us know, but at least
Okay.
remind the members who have not taken the course to do so. I want to make sure that this committee is in regulation, and we're not violating any law. So,
I'd just like to inform you that I have taken the course and I have provided the certificate to the city,
okay, thank you. For the record.
for the record.
We have a new member tonight that I think it's his first meeting. It's your first meeting, Randy, correct?
Yes, in this committee.
Okay, I apologize, that's what I meant. So it might be worthwhile to talk about how to get access to the ethics training online so that Randy knows how to do that.
Other,
Kyle did send an email back, so just
Okay.
resend that to the
Yeah.
ones who are missing.
I was going to suggest, because I know you guys are not sure who's going to, if you're going to continue to be on the economic development or somebody from the chamber, maybe that's something too that some of your members can share. If it's going to be consistent.
Yeah, I'll be attending for a while till we get the director or
Okay.
involved, and so you can send information about college to you.
Sounds good.
Great.
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate it. Okay. Next item on the agenda, public comment period. Items that are not on the agenda. Any one person may address the committee on any matter not on this agenda. If you wish to speak, please fill out a public comment form provided at the back of the table and give it to the city clerk. At this point would be our treasurer, but if not, you can provide it to the staff here, or come state your name in front of the microphone clearly. There is a 3-minute limit on public comments. There will be no sharing or passing time to another person. State law prohibits the committee from discussing or taking action brought up by your comments. At this time, do we have any public comments requests from the audience? Anybody that would like to come up and speak? Okay. Hearing none, seeing none, we'll move on to action item number 2, public hearings and request. Approval of the minutes from the regular meeting of July 13th. I did not get those in time before the deadline for Nicole before she went on her training. So we will approve the July 13th, 2016 at the next committee meeting.
Just want to take a motion to continue?
Yes. At this time, I'm going to go ahead and ask for a motion and a second
I'll second.
to continue.
Yes.
Okay, so we have a first by Jeff Chambers, making sure. And then a second by Dr. Condon. All in favor?
Aye.
Hearing no nays, we'll move forward. Passed by, okay. B, update on project from the city staff. So at this time, I'm going to have staff, I do have a message, apologize. I do have a message from one of our members to share, but I can do that later on item F for topics for future agenda items, because it will need to take an action maybe at the next meeting. So at this time, I'm going to turn it over to staff to go ahead and update us on projects that are going on in the city.
Thank you. And when we created the agenda for the Economic Development Committee, staff and the council members, as well as the city manager, thought it'd be important to provide an update item on the agenda that'll be reoccurring each meeting, so that you can know kind of what city staff knows and what the city council's been up to between meetings. So notable projects that have had some movement related to economic development or the city in general were the plot plan for the Hidden Canyon Industrial Park. That was a project that was previously approved. The specific plans approved, the environmentals approved years and years ago, and the simple plot plan, which is the layout of the buildings on the lot, was expired. So council did decide and approved the re-entitlement or the reapproval of the plot plan that expired. So what that means is we might be discussing potential clients or end users for some of those buildings out at the western end of town within the industrial business area. If any of those things come to fruition or we get an application that comes in, by all means, that will be on this update at a future meeting. A couple other items that you will see in the near future are some commercial projects. And we're nearing the end of the environmental review process for a project over on 2nd Street and 1st Street near Highland Springs, right behind the CHP building. And the legal notice for the environmental will be going out in about 2 or 3 weeks. And then we'll be scheduling the public hearing for that, if everything goes smoothly, for probably November Planning Commission. And that's a 7-acre piece. It has at least 4 buildings on it off the top of my head. And it's meaningful for, in my perspective, is we haven't had much of any new retail square footage built since the recession. And what that tells me is retail is coming back slowly but surely. Some of the consumer spending mentality has changed. So a lot of people order on Amazon Prime, but there are retail opportunities to be had out there, and I see the commercial people coming back. So hopefully that project goes smoothly, and that gets the entitlement at Planning Commission. And if anyone would like to attend that meeting, it's always the 2nd Tuesday of each month, so that should be the 2nd Tuesday of November, if everything goes smoothly on that. The staff report will be up probably the Thursday or the Friday before that date. The other one is another small retail, probably for a gas station or a convenience store, and potentially a drive-through restaurant pad located on Louis Estrada and Beaumont Avenue. Once again, that's in the environmental stage. So staff's been circulating documents internally to review, and we're excited about that one as well. And then the last one that came in a couple weeks ago was the indoor-outdoor soccer complex on 6th Street. So they did actually file the application after council chose to allow for that type of use. A smaller commercial athletic complex on 6th Street required a change in the zoning to do that. But they have officially applied, so we should see that project come into a planning commission meeting for their conditional use permit in the next couple months or so.
And that's 6th Street and near Palm?
Close between Palm and Xenia. I don't remember off the top of my head exactly which property.
Okay, the empty lot.
I have the application, so.
I believe that's I think that's the same owner as the person that was out in Calamasa.
Very possible.
Think
But come by my office and I'll show you the exact location. I apologize, I don't have it
No,
on.
not a problem. I'm just curious.
So there's some of the projects that we're working on through economic development in the planning department currently that are of probably interest to this committee. Oh, and Wolverine's building. So if you haven't seen it, you haven't seen the grading and the tremendous amount of construction activity located south of the 60 freeway.
Foundation.
That is the distribution center and point-of-sale internet sale facility for Wolverine distribution, or Wolverine Worldwide, which has a slew of different shoe products, footwear products.
Any questions from members of the committee in regards to any of those projects?
No questions from me, just a comment that I think this all speaks very well for our economic recovery in our area.
I have a question, and we may not know, or maybe privileged information. Maybe, do we have any idea, or I know the developer, Mr. Ron Holly, do we have any insight on what those what the users are going to be? I know there's been talk, or do we have to kind of hold down, wait?
Which ones?
For the one that's the commercial property that's going to be across the street from Best Buy and next to CHP.
I could tell you what's on the application. So it's not 100% for sure.
No.
It's just what they've been showing us in terms of the application materials, and that would be a Panera Bread. It's a tire store. I believe it's one of the Les Schwab tire stores that have your really nice, expensive tires. A car wash, full-service car wash, and a pharmacy, a retail storefront that the renderings show a Rite Aid. I'm not 100% sure of that because I haven't seen any of those businesses' business license application, but that's what's being shown on the plot plan.
So, that's all I'll say, because
But I'm excited
there's more
about
to
the
it.
Panera Bread.
Yeah, yeah. So, okay. No other questions at that time, I appreciate it. And what was the other question I was gonna ask? In terms of the Hidden Canyon project, so now that they've gone through the, that phase in terms of the plot plan, what's to follow in regards to the next steps? Are they moving towards, I know at this point there's the water district, and then going forward, what's the next steps for them?
Yeah, they'll need to take care of their service agreements with other entities if they haven't already done so. I don't know the status of like a private developer's service agreements with gas or water or Verizon or Edison or things like that. So they have to get all those things in order if they haven't already done so. But what the plot plan and the full entitlement package signifies is a starting point in which you can negotiate with end users. Many times if you were to approach or to be approached as the city or developer by an end user that wants you, the developer, to build a building and have the city approve that business, if you don't have those entitlements all in order, you're somewhat wasting their time because they want to be able to negotiate, put together their budget, and have a starting point on which the building gets started and is finished that they know they need to occupy. If it's, well, we might be able to build you a building starting in 2018 and it might be finished by 2020, you can see how a Fortune 500 or a Fortune 1000 company isn't interested in sitting down with that developer or the city and discussing hypotheticals. It's a lot of people and a lot of work that goes into site acquisition and site selection, and they want to feel assured that if they pull the trigger, using Wolverine as a good example, they knew when they needed to start that building's construction, and they know what day they expect that developer who's building it to have it finished so they can start moving shoes from the Port of LA, Long Beach in there and then out to other people.
Okay, and
So hopefully we get some negotiations or interest in that property, and hopefully staff can work with the developer and try to outreach, if we have spare time, to go out and find some people to hopefully find those
some users
buildings
for that
those
project.
locations a home.
Absolutely, yeah. Okay, so I just wanted to put that out there so members of the committee and understand the next process and where that goes, because
And it
that
could
was the
take
question.
6 months if things line up great, or it could take 6 years if no one likes the site.
We hope it's sooner.
I always hope it's sooner.
Get that going. Okay. Okay, we're gonna move on to C, request of sign ordinance review by landowner.
I'll make this one real simple, or as simple as I can. So there's property that's a very large acreage, maybe 40, 50 acres, zoned commercial in the city. And it's on Highway 79, but it's not close to the I-10 freeway. It's semi-close, it's just not fronting the freeway. So the city of Beaumont sign ordinance currently prohibits off-site signs, unless you're a builder and you have a BIA sign. But you won't see a sign for a business off their property anywhere in our city, and that's the idea of the ordinance. Just prohibits sign blight, people from buying small little parcels to put up a sign for the Best Buy way over on Oak Valley Parkway. It just doesn't make sense. Now, we've been in discussions with this developer that has good intentions of building a commercial shopping center, but he doesn't feel he can attract the right type of tenants that the city wants to see without freeway signage. and he can't put a sign on his property that's visible from the freeway. So when we were talking to him, I as a staff member can't just unilaterally make that change and allow him to purchase property near the freeway to erect a sign that would showcase his property located near the freeway. So I did tell him that we had an economic development committee, and we could propose the concept of changing the ordinance in such a way that would allow for off-site signs in certain areas for certain size properties. And I'm being vague because I haven't spent any time on it. The reason we bring it up here is we were hoping that the Economic Development Committee could hear this option or proposal by the developer, think about it, and if they think it's a good idea, recommend to the city council that the city council potentially direct staff to do some research on it. As opposed to just having a developer come in and say, work on this, and then we'll spend 10 hours researching sign ordinances to see if it actually works or what the pitfalls or what things to avoid are. To have it go through the chain of command and have the Economic Development Committee decide if it's worthwhile discussing that, or if you can think quickly what things could be really wrong with that proposal, and then we'll just go back to the developer and say it didn't even pass committee. They weren't willing to go to the city council. Obviously, either council members that sit on the committee could do that themselves, but we just wanted to bring it up for discussion and see if it made sense. We wouldn't be interested from staff's perspective of doing it for every single property. There would have to be some minimum limit that would be a large acreage, and in my opinion, would need to be within a certain distance of the freeway.
And so the current, well, let me see if any of the committee members, does any of the committee members have questions in regards to this item here?
I do.
Okay.
It's not really a question, it's a comment. I can only recall one property where this situation exists, which is in the city of Lake Elsinore at Highway 74, where Target has a sign in the Home Depot's shopping center. And that was a pivotal criteria for Target to go. And I think that if you want to attract a certain tenant, the reason that tenant would go off the freeway is one of two reasons: availability of land or price of the dirt. And the price of the dirt off the freeway is going to be significantly less than the price of a freeway frontage piece of property. And so as Party Homes, we own property that is off the freeway, and I can assure you that the value of that property would be significantly enhanced with freeway frontage of signage or some type of signage that is available to the passerbys on the freeway. How that's regulated, I'm not certain, because it's a new concept that you just brought up. I think that it has advantages and could go a long ways in attracting the right type of tenant for the city of Beaumont. So I think it's something worthwhile to look into.
So if I can add to that, he approached Kyle and the Economic Development Committee and inquiring about it. I know this property has been undeveloped. It's just all dirt, and it's off of Beaumont Ave, corner of Beaumont Ave and First Street, which is across the street from Arco, across the street from Jack in a Box, the Shell gas station. And it's undeveloped there. I believe that's next to it. That's the proposed Potrero expansion.
Yeah, Potrero that exists in front of Four Seasons is planned to extend to Beaumont Avenue. Part of this development may be to provide that missing connection.
So, and the property owner did, show an interest of, developing there. And I know he approached the city back in 2014, and then again recently showing interest, wanting to move forward on the development. But unfortunately, there's a lot of challenges. And I think part of the Economic Development Committee is we look at those challenges and what opportunities we can provide to reduce challenges by, economic development in our city. And this may be one of the items. So I did concur with Kyle that we should kind of bring it up here and consider it, and maybe even kind of hear the applicant, or it's not an applicant yet because he can't apply because he'll get denied, but the request and change of ordinance, maybe what it would look like, what is our current ordinance, what kind of signage will it look like, just questions in my head. How will it benefit the city? How will it benefit the property owner? How will it benefit the users that are in the property? And where the sign would go overall? That's a huge question. So,
one of the things that I think of, I think it's good. I think it's very good that we look into it. And I appreciate Jeff's comments about the value of doing that to a property that would not be on the freeway. And I don't really know the answers to what I'm going to say, but I'm just going to bring them up. When we do a cell tower lease, what some cities do, and I think we do it this way also, and Kyle, you'll know this better than I do, is we lease to someone who puts the tower in, and then they actually can lease to secondary users. They can put up a dish to cover their costs by somebody else, and then someone else, etc. So they make the original agreement, and then to cover their costs, they actually break it down and have other people sort of sublease from them on that tower. So I guess what I would ask you to do is to consider that this may end up to be somewhat used like that. In other words, the initial agreement may be for someone like Target, and then to cover their costs, they put a secondary and a third. So I don't think that's bad economically or commercially, but I think maybe just forward thinking a little bit for the city to say if we make this kind of arrangement or exception, if you're going to get money from secondary leasees, then maybe there's some benefit to the city if we open up the door to one person.
I think it's a really good point. The way some of the cell phone towers on city property work is we're clever enough to include subleases. So the first company pays us X dollar amount for the tower, and then each additional carrier that adds on pays us a smaller dollar amount, because that's exactly what they're doing. They're offsetting their cost by using the structure to generate some money to help pay for it. For the sign, what my envision would be for the sign program for these offsite signs is it would solely be limited to commercial messaging related to that center. So you wouldn't see a car dealer 2 cities away advertising on this newly erected sign that's intended to promote business in the city of Beaumont at a property that's off the freeway. I think we would write the ordinance in such a way that if it met certain rules, the only messaging on that board should be related to the property that erected it. Does that make sense?
Yes, or if they want to do something different, they have to come forward for permission for something else so that we get a chance to revisit it.
Dr. Condon had a question. Go ahead.
Well, I think Mark hit on all of the cogent points that need to be looked at. In relation to the regulation, I think we want to keep in mind the feeling of our town, the ambiance that we want to see in our community.
and certain kind of signs might not be conducive to that. So it could get a bit touchy when we're setting regulations. For instance, a sign that said Victoria Gardens and listed all kinds of great stores might be one thing, but Clyde's Chicken Wings would be something else, that we may not like the feeling of people going by on the freeway and seeing that on our sign. So the message and the ambiance of that message, I think, is going to be important. And I think that would be a difficult task, as Mark was referring to regulations, of regulating that. But I like the idea very much of allowing signs for some of these larger stores. I think it would encourage them to come here.
Mr. Harris?
Yeah, I think it's a great idea myself. It will attract new businesses. As we've all said, there's advantages and disadvantages. I feel there's a lot more advantages to throwing up a sign, which would have to have its guidelines and requirements and the final approval through the city, obviously, with Kyle. But I think it's a great idea.
Okay. I have a question, and keep in mind, we can learn something from what we have in place already. There's this big sign in the city of Beaumont. I'm sure you guys all seen it, right off the Highland Springs freeway, Highland Springs exit, and it's really large, and it has the city of Beaumont name on there. That is not owned by the city.
No,
That is owned by what property owner?
I have no clue.
So we don't know who owns that. They just operate that at their free
I
will.
literally think the property that it sits on is the size of the sign. Like, it's a small little square.
Okay. I mean,
And when I first started working here 10 years ago, I thought the Chamber of Commerce owned it. And I thought the city owned it. And then came to find out the only way to find the landowner or the owner information of the sign was like a sign that was on the leg of the sign.
yeah.
That's how I told people how to contact the person that owned this very large sign.
I remember the person coming in to a council meeting a couple of years ago that I attended as a member of the public, and they were asking for expansion on the sign space, and they were from LA, and they owned that piece of property. And that's a good example because I've seen ads on there for Coachella, I've seen ads on there for lots of things that are outside of the city. And of course, it does get into the visual aspect of what our city
Yeah.
looks like with that on there.
And that's
So-
why I brought that up, because I have concerns with that sign itself, and where the focus is on, and I want to make sure we take a look at that. I know we can't probably go back; makes it difficult for us to go back and revisit regulation on there. But my concern is moving forward for a digital billboard. I want to make sure that we look at things that we've done wrong in the past and kind of remedy that, so next time we won't have that issue. But I like it, keeping it local, benefiting the businesses in the area, work collaboratively with it. I know all the other partial concern is too, we have to consider, we have to look at is that, where would it go? I know it would probably go somewhere off of, it's not 79, but the exit here on Beaumont Avenue, which property, how large is it? How large is it going to be? All those requirements. From what you're asking, so we can move on, are you asking maybe having members of the Economic Development Committee do a subcommittee? Or
What I think
maybe
would be the easiest way is if the majority of the committee thinks it's a good idea
to visit?
to take a motion and an action from the committee as a whole to the city council that you as the chairman could bring up at the council meeting under your council report and say, the Economic Development Committee met in September. They took a formal action and a recommendation to the council that they'd like to see staff work on reviewing sign ordinance modifications based on what we've talked about. And then if the majority of council would like to see staff work on it, then they take an action at that council meeting, and then Rebecca and I get to work on reviewing some of this stuff. But if the committee or the council the majority of each of those bodies don't think it's worth staff's time, then Rebecca and I won't spend hours reviewing these to try to figure out what could be wrong and to draft up something that might work out in the end and may take care of a lot of the problems we've talked about.
Okay, okay, comment. Okay, go ahead.
Most signs for commercial properties have CUPs, conditional use permits. Sign blight is a terrible thing. And the last thing that I'd like to see happen is for signs to randomly appear, because I think it's visual blight, and I'm not for it. However, in the right situation, with the right sign and an associated conditional use permit, it may be attractive enough to have either the planning commission or the city council approve it. But I think in doing this, it opens up a lot more than just a sign ordinance, because most properties can't just put up a sign. That's not allowed. And so you're going to have to address something beyond the sign ordinance in a zoning issue. And with respect to the Beaumont sign, I wanted to just comment that I would think that is allowed under a conditional use permit. And I would like to have staff look at that sign and the conditions within the conditional use permit, because that sign needs to be upgraded and it needs to be improved upon. And I'd like to see what it's supposed to allow, because to me, it's visual blight.
Okay, I like that. I'm glad you brought that up. Maybe we can do it all at the same time.
I agree.
I think, yeah, I mean, we put all that work into it. I mean, I know I heard one of the council members mention that before about that sign, and it just dropped. So I think sending that back that way with a motion, we can take a look at back, you know, because they may be violating the conditional use on that sign. We don't know. And then if we can add things to it and you know, on our end, adjust that to fit the look of Beaumont, the visual blight. Okay, that can benefit the city in terms of, you know, people wanting to stop by, because that's what we are here in Beaumont. We're a passing by community, and we get a lot of traffic, people coming by, and they see that sign and it's not attractive, and they see this big old thing on there that's not attractive. They're not going to stop, you know, and upgrading that, you know, because they have our name on it. They're using the city of Beaumont's name on that sign. It's representing the city. So I'm glad you brought that up. So how would you like the motion? I mean, you want to state the motion, then we can then put it the way with
So
adding.
what I'm hearing is that the committee would like to recommend to the city council to direct staff to work on a sign ordinance amendment, to look at the possibility of allowing for off-site commercial signs meeting certain requirements, and review the approval of the Highland Springs sign, if you will. That's what we'll call it, since I don't know what the formal name is. And any conditions or approval process that goes with that sign, to see if they're in compliance, or to see if the city can determine that the existing condition of the sign is blighted.
You want to take it first?
I'll make a motion to what Kyle just stated,
Okay.
that we proceed with.
I'll second that.
Okay. So first by Jeff Chambers, and seconded by Nancy Carroll. So, well, I forgot to ask, was there any discussion on that item before we move on?
Sounds good.
Sounds good? Okay. So let's go ahead and take a vote on that motion. We can do a roll call, or we can just do, let me go back to my agenda here. Okay. So we got a first, we got a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Hearing no, do we have any noes? None? Okay, motion passes. So you got that, Kyle? Okay. Motion passes. Okay. Moving on to this item D, SWOT analysis, citywide viewpoint.
All right, so I'll do a couple things sitting down before I stand up. Since Randy wasn't here, I'll go through a little bit of some background before we jump into it. When the committee was established, we decided we should probably perform a strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats analysis to give us a where are we now status before we jumped into creating goals and objectives for the committee on what things we wanted to do in the short term and long term. The committee thought it would be important to figure out where we're at now on those 4 areas. The SWOT analysis is a strategic planning tool used by organizations to ensure there's clear, objective information and understanding a region's or a city's capabilities and capacities. So you're not overreaching on something you thought you might be able to do. A SWOT analysis typically identifies a region's competitive advantages, those indigenous assets that make the region special and competitive in a national or a regional, like a county, climate, juxtaposed against those internal and external factors that can keep a region or a city from realizing its potential. Determining and analyzing what the region already possesses could be leveraged better to build capacity for growth, including cultural, economic, technological, intellectual, and physical assets, is critical to developing a strategic direction and plan to promote regional or citywide economic vitality and activity. So that's some of the background of really what the SWOT analysis is going to do. We did talk about it was the last meeting, whether we wanted to jump into doing part of the analysis on a citywide 40,000 foot elevation level, or if we wanted to split the pie into a couple pieces and do it on a more strategic or category level, which would be on like quality of life, business, climate, clusters, economic development efforts. And the committee chose to do it first, spend our time on the citywide approach. And instead of sitting around and talking about how we do that for the next 2 or 3 meetings, which would be 2 or 3 months, Chairman Orozco and myself thought, why not just start? Why not throw up the board and allow the committee members and members of the public, if you wish, to provide input to what we feel are the internal aspects that are related to the city of Beaumont and its economic development efforts, its city policy efforts, and those types of things. So with that, I guess we could just start, unless we wanted, I know there's only 8 people here tonight. We are missing 4, but I'll leave it up to the committee if you'd like to perform the first stage, if you will, first phase of the SWOT analysis tonight, or if we're going to try to do it when we have a full body. But I'd hate to put it off longer to not have a full body at the next meeting.
Yeah. I just want to make aware, we have a special guest that's here, and I know he's on a time schedule. I want to introduce Senator Richard Polanco, who has driven here from LA. I just wanted to, if it's possible, it does, I know he did want to speak on what we're doing in the SWOT analysis and the views on us going forward. If the council don't mind, if the committee don't mind, if we can, I think he's going to give us about 3 to 5 minutes.
It won't be that long.
I know you have to head back. So.
It's a long drive for 3 to 5
It's a long
minutes.
drive.
Yeah.
Yes. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners. To the staff, let me take this opportunity to acknowledge all of you for how far you've taken the recreation, the rebirth of the city. I'm one who doesn't get stuck on the history and the past. I'm one who looks forward to creating the future. And your economic development strategy and plan obviously is going to take you to those particular points and places that matter to people and your community. I want to acknowledge the leadership of the council, its mayor, its council members. I want to acknowledge also the outstanding work that you've done thus far to create the kind of reforms that are necessary. I would like to say that I had the opportunity to serve in the legislature for 16 years. My last 4 as the Senate Majority Leader. I'm a strong advocate of community economic development. Communities will not survive without economic development. Economic development done correctly brings tremendous benefit to the city, and more importantly, the beneficiaries, the citizens of the city. Economic development, in the past, we've utilized the redevelopment law. I authored the Polanco Act, which created an opportunity to clean up toxic sites. Later became the brownfield. Unfortunately, the courts ruled in a manner that threw everything out, which makes it more difficult for cities like yours to look, to be able to leverage your resources both at the federal and at the state level. What you're doing in terms of setting up an economic plan from within. My history and background is in redevelopment. I was very involved in East Los Angeles with 2 major redevelopment programs, a $10 million housing, public housing, and another $20 million neighborhood development program. And what I learned, my experience from that opportunity, was that you have to organize from within. You cannot leave the citizens, the residents, the business, the religious organizations, the schools. You cannot leave out any entity, those stakeholders, in the process. The mayor, in his address to the city, talked about sustainability. And that's important. Sustainability is important. Sustainability in terms of leadership, sustainability in terms of economic development. The job creation obviously is the best and most effective way to deal with the issues of poverty. And so I come just to say several things. First and foremost, acknowledge this city for being able to get to the point you're at today. And second, to encourage you to participate at the most grassroots level, even with the dissenters. I learned in my years of public life, not just as an elected, but in the private sector, there is wisdom that comes from those who dissent. And you need to provide the opportunity for them to engage in the development. There needs to be that investment from folks, not only at the top, but it works this way. You need to have it coming from all directions. And so I will just indicate that be the change. Be the change that, and you hear it, that you want to create. People are depending on you. As public officials, there is nothing more important than the trust that is given as individuals who serve as commissioners, who may not be elected. That is trickling down to you. That trust, that confidence, that hope that people have bestowed upon you must not be taken lightly. I'm a firm believer that those who giveth can taketh. And certainly my years of experience have done that. I also just want to acknowledge my long-term friendship and thank you, Dr. Condon, for the opportunity and the friendship we've developed. We met when I served as the chair of the Business and Professions Committee, a committee that licenses just about everything in California, with the exception of the lawyers. I'm not going to get into whether we should or not. I will say that your leadership then obviously continues today in its presence, and your friendship is very much appreciated. to the mayor. Your state of the state was a very on point state of the state, very deliberate. The opportunities to look at technologies, to look at your internal assets, for example, on how you can create from your city assets some revenue streams to offset some of the activities that are short in resources. I think the technology area is a real frontier for the cities, not just yours, but for municipalities. The challenges of water obviously are still with us, but the fact that you've been able to maintain your water issue and manage it, the fact that you still see growth and managing it is a real salute to the leadership of the city. With that, I want to thank you for the opportunity to come and say a few words and encourage you to continue to build that economic development strategy. It is the engine. With an economic development plan, leveraging at the state level with the various authorities, financing authorities, is a real possibility. We're looking to see at the state level, as you have read, homeless dollars, an issue that is very, very much in the minds of many, so that we're dealing with our veterans who are homeless, who need mental health assistance. The state is beginning to step up, and I just will close by saying thank you for taking the leadership and being the leaders that you are. Bless you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
I'd like to especially thank you for coming out today. I know the traffic was terrible in getting here, but when I first went to Sacramento, I asked someone, who is the most powerful person in this house that can get things done in economic development? And they sent me to this man, and that's I knew that he knows a great deal about economic development, and if we may in the future, we'd like to call on you. Thank you.
I appreciate the opportunity. God bless you all. And you've got many meetings and many a writing, but get it done for the benefit of the community. God bless you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we are now, so let's have a discussion about the SWOT analysis. I know we were missing four members of the committee. I think all committee members are important and valuable in providing information to this SWOT analysis. I think we picked a very diverse group that has a huge understanding of their areas of expertise in real estate, in the medical field, college, chamber, with finances, with the residential development, school district, and go on and on and on and on. So I don't know at this point if you guys want to continue doing the first step and identifying, is that, I mean, where is the first part crucial, or the second? I know the second part of it, we're not going to get through all of it. I know we want to do half, then do half.
It's all critical to the end result, which is going to be how to tie it all together at the end. That's the worst thing about certain SWOT analysis that I've been a part of, is they'll do the first four, and then they don't do anything with the data that's collected. And I have some ideas of what to do with that once those four boxes are populated with things. We'll have a couple meetings in which we can even do it with the council or the public. It's all up to what the committee thinks is the most important, is where you allow people to prioritize the items that are going to be in each box. And there's a systematic way of doing that, so that items in the box are all given equal priority at first, but you have to be able to focus your time and your efforts on something. You can't focus on all 20 things that are going to go in the weakness box, or else our goals and objectives are going to be 10 years out. So we want to, get some data on those boxes to feel what the committee thinks and what the public thinks should be on SWOT analysis.
How does the rest of the committee members feel on what you guys want to do? Option one, we can move forward and then add when the members come back, we can add to it, because I think this is going to take more than one meeting. They can add to it as they get back. We'll just take the notes and, make a chart and then carry that chart around and bring that chart back and add to it. Or we can wait another month and getting at this. What's your recommendation, guys?
You want to go first?
No, I might learn something from what you have to say.
Okay.
Go ahead.
I would like to recommend that all of the committee members are notified of putting together their SWOT issues. And then we come back at the next meeting, every member has their top 5 or so issues. And that rather than sit here and randomly think off the top of our head about a strength or an opportunity or a threat or a weakness, that we've given this some serious thought, and that we come back and we make progress. And we've given this a lot of thought, and we actually have our issues to put up on the board, and we attack it that way. That would be my recommendation.
That's just what I was going to say. Thank you.
Anybody else? I was thinking, okay, yeah, Bertha.
I do have another recommendation. I really like the meeting that we had that one day where we separated in small groups, and each one of us discussed specifics about some of our concerns, and then we presented to the large room. I would like to recommend that we have one meeting specifically just for this, and do it in the same fashion that we did it the one day. I think that was our first meeting.
We may have to do it in here, because we want to, anything that we discuss, we can just do it a little more open. I like that. I mean, for me, as an educator, I learn better that way. But I was thinking maybe, I like the idea we come prepared and we have our information. I'm not saying we're not prepared, but getting all the members' input. I was thinking, Kyle, maybe we can create, I can help, we can do it together. We can create a document that basically breaks down what we are asking the community members to bring back next time. They can, print it out, write in their information, come back to the next council, next committee meeting, which we can lay that out, and everybody will have their information in front of them. This is what I brought back. I put some thought into it. I put some research into it, and we can share out that information, put it on the charts, and make some progress.
Go ahead.
Kyle, the only other thing I would like to ask of that too is I know we had some information today from the college, but over the last several meetings, we've kind of piecemealed all this information in. And I know I've said that a few times, that that's my biggest thing is I want a bunch of data so I can get back to this. If there's a way you can maybe recompile that information and put it back out, if it's one email to us or something, whatever's come in from each of those organizations, and send it back out. I know there's a couple I may have missed or are still missing. So again, I think that's a big piece. I certainly have been a big proponent of getting started into this, but you need to know the raw data to be able to go back and look at where we're at, either coming in from those individuals or from, if it's something that we can compile and send back out to us, then I can, at least on my own personal, do a better job of going through it and coming up with my thoughts.
I'd like to ask a question. Dan?
Let me
I'm
go
sorry.
to Nancy
That's all
first, and then go to you.
I was just going to add, one of the things that we did when we came together as a committee was we tried to reach out to stakeholders and touch points in the community, because each one of you has your own little community of friends and business people that you talk to, et cetera. And one of the things I think that's valuable about what Jeff said about going out and getting what it is that we think are the components of the SWOT is, I would encourage us not to work with each other on developing the SWOT. I think the real hidden value here is the fact that we each come from a different spot in the community and reach out to your community of people that you work with and that you associate with and that has knowledge. Maybe talk with them about what they think the components of the SWOT are and bring that back to us, because there's a real reason why each one of you has been reached out to by this Economic Development Committee, and that is because there's knowledge and there's information and there's history that each one of you as individuals has. And if you could bring that into and pull that into the SWOT, then that whole result is going to become richer. So while I really do like working with small teams on a lot of things, I would say make your own small team. Get what it, I mean, Randy, you're in real estate, et cetera, and find out from the people that you're talking to what they think their components of SWOT are, and feed it to us. And that's the real rich part, I think, of this committee. And I think this is one of our best opportunities to get that.
Okay. Chambers?
I'm going to trust this question to Kyle. Does the city have any past economic research studies that were undertaken that are available to share? Something that maybe a Kaiser Marston or a John Husing or somebody like that has done to help attract retail development into the city of Beaumont? I know I've worked in other cities in the retail sector where the cities have engaged studies to try to find out, like a void analysis, who's not here, what does it take to get here. Has the city done any of that?
We have, the simple answer is no. The complicated answer is we have a study from Husing that was done on the impact of growth. Wasn't retail or industry specific. One of the reasons why I think my answer was no is it wasn't a priority. It wasn't a line item in the budget that the administration or prior councils wanted to spend money on. I met with one company, I'm gonna go without their name, for you'll know why in a second, but they came in, they met with me, and they said, we could do this void analysis, and it's gonna cost you anywhere between $20,000 to $60,000, and I promise you we'll bring you a Walmart. I said, we already have a Walmart. You did. So we literally ended the meeting in 5 minutes because I did not want this person to waste my time on bringing in this great business plan that we would hire their company to bring in a company that was already here. They had done zero research on the city of Beaumont before they stepped in my office. And we could look at doing those things. I'm sure there's companies that are better than the one I met with that will remain nameless. But it is something that I think goes with an economic development or economic strategic plan that I offered to kind of head up or author myself years ago, never went anywhere. We could hire companies to assist staff in doing that because it is a tremendous amount of time. I believe the senator that spoke hit on it. Some of the communities, and even the financial advisors hit on it at a council meeting a couple times ago. Do you think the city of Palm Desert got to where they're at today just by chance?
Or Ontario.
They have a plan in place that said this is exactly what we want to do.
Yep.
And staff has their marching orders on how to facilitate the plan, because just having the plan, spending $50,000 to create the plan and not having personnel at City Hall to implement it or to meet with people to facilitate that plan is also worthless.
It's not effective.
So we're kind of at the starting phase of doing that. The SWOT will help build or start that strategic planning and maybe convince the council that it is the time to maybe invest in a consultant that will work with staff, work for the city council, and develop the economic strategic plan. One other thing is, since I kind of work in economic development and planning, is you have directed the planning director to incorporate an economic development, what do you call it? element, there it is. Normally general plan updates have certain required elements, and the city council directed her and staff to include an economic development element in the general plan update. So that may pull out some hardcore data that we could not spend money twice on, that could be included in the economic development strategic plan later on. So knowing when we get that consultant on board that's going to do the general plan and how we want to tailor that, it might be better to kind of wait on that and see if they're going to strike on what we want them to do before we go spend more money on something that we're going to duplicate work. Does that make sense?
We can meet at the halfway point. We can build
Yeah.
up to that point, and then when we get to that, hopefully that general plan, or, I know council members have continuous to lobby for, staff members to do this full time, which I think we need to. Hopefully, we get all this work, we present it to the council, and that will send a message saying, we're ready to go. This is what we have. There's momentum. Things change, and you never know. Things change in the next month or so. That can happen sooner than later. So, again, it's the priority of the council. It's the priority of.
But I think Jeff's
So.
Jeff's question is valid. Why don't we have one? I think he knew the
Is
answer.
that a follow-up question you want to go?
There is.
Okay, I'm finished.
Most applicants go through a process when they're applying for whatever they're applying for, some type of development or conditional use permit. Oftentimes, through that application process, let's say that there's an environmental impact report done. As part of that environmental impact report, once it's submitted to the city, it becomes a public document. It's available for review. Same thing, there could possibly be an appraisal report, an economic study done as part of the environmental impact report. My guess is that the city has received fairly current documents that would provide some excellent information that we could disseminate and make recommendations on, rather than just pulling it with limited resources. That there must be some documents that's in the hands of the city, which have been formally submitted, so they are public, that we could get access to. So I don't know if there is. I have to believe that it does exist, and if it does exist, it would be nice to make it available to us.
Do you know specifically who? Is that something you want to talk to Kyle about?
I do not know. I'm just speculating that.
Are you referring to party? No.
No, we haven't, because our project has an entitlement that was granted years ago. But for like a new retail center, there's a reason that they're building, and they may have submitted data to support what they're doing, and that data is public once it's submitted, and we would avail ourselves to it.
I'll check it out.
Okay, sounds good.
I did want to build on Nancy's point. I thought that was very important to bring up, and I'm glad she brought it up, because the analysis is only as good as the people or the participants that are involved in it. And I was scratching my head and thinking, do we want to do it on the committee level, or do we want to open this up to the community itself and have 800 people in a room doing it? And both have merit and both have pros and cons, but to be able to facilitate that is a little bit difficult, especially just for one person like myself. But to leverage your assets and the people that you know, the people that you work with, and that you associate with, I think is the best way to do both. As you go back, and I wouldn't limit it to 5 items that you believe are the strengths and the weaknesses. I think
That was a minimum.
minimum of 5. I think
Yeah,
that's
good.
good. If you want to do all 4, that's great. If you want to just focus on the first two, which I was going to do tonight, which are the internal factors, those are your strengths and your weaknesses. And what that means is they are somewhat under the city's control. So when you go out and you talk to people, examples of that are what the city, and when we talk about citywide, we're talking about everyone. So the school district, the college, the past hospital, the city itself, the developers, the real estate people, the residents. What are the capabilities that the city has that are working for us? What are the resources that the city has available that we can leverage? And what processes that we do good? So what are we doing better than others? What unique attributes that we have? What do the residents and the businesses or parents, and for example, of the school district see as the city's strengths? And what's our competitive advantage? As a business person myself, that's my favorite. What's our competitive advantage? What do we have over someone else starting day one that we need to promote? And if we don't, we're doing ourselves a disservice, because they probably have something on us that's better, and you better believe our competitors will use their advantage to their competitive advantage to their benefit. And then weaknesses are what other people do better. What do they do better than us? What do they have that we don't have? More of a business thing, but I think it can be applied for a nonprofit or a city, are what elements or what processes does the city do that add little to no value? So from a business perspective, you can kind of think of what businesses do, and they realize, oh, we are spending a lot of time on something that gets us no bang
Little
for the
return,
buck.
yeah.
So what does the city do? What are we doing? Or what's the community do that adds little to no value that we may spend a lot of time doing? And then what do competitors see as our weaknesses? So what are they looking at us? What's the weakness that we have that they see that you better believe they're going to try to leverage when they meet with someone to try to encourage them to come to their city or to do a special project there versus here? So those are a couple examples if you want to bring those up with your associates and colleagues on examples of what we want to put in there. Then once we get them in the boxes, we can prioritize, and then we'll go to the final step, which is the fun one. I'm going to keep that as a secret, and what the end result is. But at the end of the SWOT analysis, we will have an end result as opposed to 4 boxes with words in them.
Okay. Okay. And I'll go with Della, and then I'll go to you, Mr. Harris.
I just wanted to piggyback on Nancy's comment about talking to others. I think that's a very important part of the process, because it takes me to the word serve, and we do serve the people. And I think it's important that as we're forming the ideas in our own minds, that we talk to the people we interface with every day, knowing we're going to get a broad spectrum of we don't need any new business at all to, we want to turn into Las Vegas. We'll see that broad range, but somewhere in between we're going to hit a happy medium. And then I think once we then have brought our thinking to the table, as well as the input we've received that Nancy had suggested, that after we have done this, then maybe that's the time to have reactions to it from larger groups of people from outside. Mark and I really, I want to say this diplomatically, we really worked hard to get this committee set up. We felt that it was just so critically important, because a vacuum has a way of filling itself. And if we don't actively go out and seek what we want, then it's going to fill itself with things that we don't want. And you used the word priority. And up until now, this has not been a priority for our city, this economic development idea and concept going forward. And this committee is making it a priority. And for those of you that are coming to these meetings and spending your time, how much we appreciate it, because I want to tell you, this committee, I truly believe, is going to play an incredibly important role in leading this city into the future. I think we're going to play a large role in creating the future. Thank you.
Mr. Harris?
Yeah, I want to comment on Nancy's statement also. I think it's gonna be one of the cornerstones to actually moving the city forward. As far as what Kyle said, if Kyle could put together his words in a format, just a bullet point format maybe, and email it out to us, so we could individually go out to our community members and take a poll, a survey, whatever you'd like to say, and, because I think it's a great idea, because that's, you start large and you focus, and you come up with a result. So I think that's a great idea. Another thing would be, instead of trying to reinvent the wheel, since we're in large a part of new economic development, maybe we could bring to the table maybe someone from Palm Desert, Ontario, that's been there, done that, and maybe give us a few pointers, because everyone has a different point of view, and we all come from a different point of view. So maybe that would help also if someone knows somebody, like the gentleman that was here, great speaker, and he's been there and done that. He would be a good one to say, okay, I've looked at Beaumont, I know what's going on, here's a few pointers, and we can take those into consideration also.
Maybe able to get somebody from Palm Desert. I know he drives out to Redlands.
But you know what I'm saying.
And we're far, and I don't think he'll mind to give us the
But you get the
secrets, 'cause,
idea,
yeah. But, yeah, it's good, that's good, I like that. Okay, so I think we got our directive in terms of sending that out. I think we'd be more productive in getting what we need, and then we can get into that fashion of we do break out and we bring it back and we narrow it down. I think that was effective as well.
I like those examples, Bob. That's going to help the people understand, because they're going to read that in strengths. Okay, what's the city's strength?
Yeah,
so
that's-
if you break it down like that, that's really good.
So it's easier, that's why I brought them up,
Yeah.
and I'll email them out, so you didn't have to write them down or anything.
Yeah.
But doing it just with 4 boxes without someone facilitating is a little bit difficult, because they could bring up a strength that is actually an opportunity because it's outside the city's control, and it needs to fall in the correct box. That's one downfall of if we choose to split up into groups, is we have to be mindful of where the things go. But I'll be more than happy to send out those things so that everyone's on the same page.
Okay. So that does not need to take a vote or anything. So we gave a consensus in terms of what he needs to do. I'm excited about that because I think it will really send a message. Also, too, just keep in mind, I'm not about just new business. What I've been taught is the old school is build with expand on what you already have. And here in Beaumont, we have a lot of business owners. We lost one, which is the motorcycle and the quad industry.
Where'd they move to?
To Banning.
Well, I
And
thought that they were going across the freeway.
no, they got a brand new facility. It looks beautiful, looks great. I stopped by there the other day and I'm like, wow. And I wish we could have provided that for them here, because they've grown here so small and they've expanded. That's who we need to take care of. And I know the chamber, in that perspective as well, is what about us that we've been here? And there's this mom and pops restaurants and businesses that are here. We got to find a way to also support them. And with redevelopment not here, how can we go about doing that as well? When we talk about some opportunities and weaknesses, because they fall into those, and that's important that we do that, because I know as chamber we need to represent those business owners as well, and not just worry about the new ones that are coming in.
And you brought up a good point that I just want to, and Jeff actually may be able to chime in on this also. You talked about losing that business and the business moving over to Banning. One of the things that this SWAT and this working together and this strategy is really good for is getting out of our head that we have to compete on price. In essence, mark things down so that business will stay here. Give them some sort of a financial incentive. Because when you compete on price alone, there is never a floor. Somebody will always go cheaper or cut the price or whatever. You have to make sure that you marry something together where there's real value for somebody to be able to stay in your town or build their business in your town. And it can't just be that we come up with ways to give them financial incentives. It's richer than that. Otherwise, you're on a downward spiral where somebody, if they want that business more, will always cut your throat on the price. So that's part of the good, strong point of this committee, is that we'll realize that whole vision is that we would want a business to understand, to both come here as well as stay here.
Yes. Mr. Harris?
Tagging off of Nancy's statement, well, we deal with a lot of people from LA County, Orange County, Arizona, that are relocating, and we hear it over and over and over and over. We need more businesses. We need more places to eat. We need more, and that's going to draw the people, the infrastructure. That's why I say that Ventura overpass is going to be huge. It's going to grow the city. I just love it. So those are a few of the things that people are saying that we hear all the time, every day. So as Beaumont grows and brings in more commercial retailers, that's what people want right now.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
That's going to kind of hold them in there a little bit.
Mm-hmm. Good point, good point. Okay. If we can go ahead and, item E is discussion of duties and responsibilities organization. I don't believe we have anything on there unless Kyle wants to add something. Anybody else wants to add? We can get on to item 5. Item F here, topics and future agendas. I wanted to bring up something that one of our members had forwarded to us. He was out for a conference, Mr. Bernie Bellin, who had brought up some information, and I can maybe forward it to all the members, but he wanted me to go over it real quickly. It's something that he would like to, let me bring it up here. Okay, here we go. Pretty long email, so I'll just kind of get to the overall point. He had asked, we can add this on the agenda, and I told him it was kind of a little late, but I would like him to be here to kind of, tout it and lobby it, and from his perspective, because I'm not going to be able to sell it the way he is. But I want you to consider it, and he asked you to consider it, and I think it's good for us to have it as a short-term objective or a task that we can do, and that is, he wanted to share that about putting together a career day boot camp. And, me being part of the chamber in the past, thank you, we've done something similar to that. And I know where he was referring to. We did that in the city of Riverside, where we had boot camps and career boot camps and getting small businesses in, helping them, because they're also looking for employees. And our local here, restaurants and local companies here that, believe it or not, are looking for qualified people who can fill out a resume and, connecting them with everybody. And I think, so he wanted to suggest that and bring that here. They have a facility located in San Bernardino, and bringing in other prospective people into the mix, involving, over 150 students, 125 students, grades through 9 through 12, having them go through different stations, with trade and what the trade entails. Stations usually are, between math, hands-on applications, with safety and electrical safety, tools, materials. He also discussed that having the committee to attend the event, how that it can benefit in making students and our youth, not just be college ready, but career ready, and to ensure that the projects are built in our city here in Beaumont, and how that would work, how that would work locally, So I want you to consider that. I will forward you. I had asked him, and he said I can go ahead and forward that to you guys to consider, and then we'll put that on our next agenda item on how we want to go about, supporting that. Because what he wants to do is create a date on his end, so then he can go back to his folks and present a date to his membership, and so we can get something started. So, something to consider.
I'm glad he emailed that to you. I had a brief discussion with Terrence Davis, our superintendent of schools, and I was hoping to be able, well, we discussed it on the phone, and he sounded very enthusiastic about this idea, and having him here hopefully at our next meeting, Bernie will have a chance to really do as this email does, really put some structure to it. I know he's trying to connect with Superintendent Davis as well, which I think brings up the larger question, which I was going to suggest as a future agenda here, is I'd like for us to look at how education's role is going to fit into our economic survival and our economic development as we move into the future. How do we create jobs for students that we graduate, and how do we marry that with the smart, clean industries that we bring in? And Bernie's suggestion is just one of those ways we get kids turned on to being an electrician when they're in high school. I know my son came home from high school one day and said, "Mom, I know what I'm going to do for a living." I said, "Well, how did you find that out?" He said, "Well, we had a career day today." I said, "Okay, what you going to be?" He said, "I want to be a cop," and then I cried. But it's a way you get kids turned on to their future, and we can pair those educational opportunities like this one with the industries that we attract.
Just to add on to that, and it's important, and she left, I wanted to give her some kudos for it, but we have additional data that, supports that, I think. The only question I ask, I'll talk to Bernie about it, instead of having it in San Bernardino, let's have it here and at our high school, or our great facility out in here, which is the Chatney Center, So I'll discuss that with him. I think that would be beneficial, but just to add to that, this is data that's very important. I think that goes into what our students here, our adults, our young adults who are in college that are working. We have students that are working and going to school in our community. And these are the ones that are going through that motions. And they're our future employees. They're working with us now. They're working with somebody in the community. We talk to business owners. They see, hey, you know what? These are great employees. They're local. They're going to school here. These are the ones that they count on. And I think it builds our employee base here in our community, so they don't have to leave as soon as they finish their AA degrees. I mean, you can see the data here, what's going on. Many of them are taking classes here and not going elsewhere, or leaving us and getting jobs outside our community. So
I want to echo everything Mark has just said. I just want to make one other interesting point. Having served in a position to make a determination of what courses are offered in a college, is are students taking what they're taking because that's what we're offering? Or are we offering what it is they want to be taking and that the economics of the community supports? There's a very great difference in that, and I think our Economic Development Committee can help clarify that picture. Am I making any sense here with what I'm suggesting? Maybe somebody wants to do something that isn't on here, and we can pair that with a business that wants to come here and offer that. And I can tell you, in my discussions with our local school district, both at high school and post-secondary, they are very open and willing to look at the future with us.
Mr. Harris?
Yeah, the school district has done outstanding progress moving forward, and the Beaumont Unified School District and the Chamber, we're having a symposium at the, I'll leave you this. I don't know if we want to overlap with this, because this is pretty comprehensive.
It is, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if you've seen this or not, but I want you guys to look at it anyway. I have a few copies. Terrence Beaumont, the new hiree in the BUSD, he passed that out, and so you consider that.
And this was the thing that was considered through the Beaumont Chamber Education Committee.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Great.
Yeah.
So it's going to be a big event, and the whole district, parents is all excited, and Christina.
I was thinking maybe we can do like phase one, which is this, and then phase two.
That may be.
Yeah, because the symposium itself, just having been a part of one, it's a lot of work. So maybe do phase two. This would be the introduction and then the application process, application. So yeah, that sounds really good. Yeah. All right. If any members wanted to add anything to the future agenda, or we can discuss for future agenda, we can talk about it. You're more than welcome to also email those to myself or Kyle that we can consider. Our next economic development meeting will be on October the 12th at 4 o'clock. Again, if anybody has concerns about the time, I know we tried to put that on the calendar for going forward, so then we automatically know when that is. It makes everybody's schedule easier to figure out. So if there's no other concerns or comments at this time, I'll go ahead and adjourn the Economic Development Committee. It is, what time is it? 5:45. 5:45. And if there's, we're good? Okay. Meeting adjourned. Thank you.